Welcome, Facebook live stream listeners and viewers. You are backstage with Paula Shaw and Change It Up Radio. We are just about to record this week's show, and my guest today is somebody you don't want to miss. Her name is Mary Goulet, and she is also a radio host and a podcaster and a woman of business for quite some time now. So don't miss Mary, because we're going to be talking about this crazy world of radio and podcasting, and probably her newest podcast, which you're going to love the title of, Catholicism is Cool. So stick around for Mary. She'll be with us in just a moment. And right now, I think we are just about ready to begin this show. So can you just peek through that window, Mary, and see if Todd's giving us a thumbs up? Oh, he's not there. Oh, there he is. Yes? Okay, we're ready. So I told you, you're backstage. Remember, this is not going to be a polished presentation for those of you on Facebook. You're going to see how it works to put a show together. Okay. All right, Mary, if you can hit that green button. Thank you. Welcome to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio. We are delighted to have you here with us today. Change It Up Radio is a dream of mine because in my work as a life transition therapist, I'm always helping people deal with change. And humans have this kind of funny relationship with change. We really need it, and we really like the fact that, variety and new things, interesting things all come through change, but it's uncomfortable. Initially, it's hard to deal with the discomfort of the new. Even if it's a new cool thing that we chose, like getting married or moving to another house, change is tough for human beings. So my goal in creating this radio show, and my goal in the work that I do, is to help people get more comfortable with change. And on this show, too, I want to spotlight the people out there who are creating change and making the world a better place. So we have had some incredible people on this show, as those of you who listen know, and I want to keep bringing that kind of person to you so that you can yourself get more comfortable with being out of your comfort zone and embracing change. So welcome to Change It Up with Paula Shaw. So today we're going to be talking about go with your gut. So going with your gut is an interesting thing because there are many, many hugely successful people out there who accredit their success to trusting their gut. And yet we're acculturated to trust our heads and our knowledge and our intellect, and not necessarily our guts. So also in my work with women, one of the things I'm really encouraging them to do is trust that intuition and step out into the world and into their lives with confidence. But that's not always easy to do, because if we don't have the right numbers on the spreadsheet and if we don't have the right facts, sometimes it's really hard to trust your gut to do something that doesn't seem to make intellectual sense, or that doesn't look like the best logical course of action. But I think as humans, if we trust our guts, we find that our lives are much more productive, our successes are huger, and we're happier because we're doing what really seems to be innately right to us. So today, a lot more women are stepping out. They are daring to trust their guts, and they're letting the world know more about what they want, what they will tolerate and what they won't tolerate. And again, so often people say to me, well, Paula, what do you actually do in a session? Like I told you a minute ago that I help women to trust their guts. But how do I actually do that? What's actually happening in that session that makes them better able to trust themselves? Well, I'll give you a quick little synopsis of what I do when I'm working with a woman or a man. So often the issues that we're dealing with in our life and any major discomfort we're having with accepting a change that's going on in our life, and we all know change is coming, whether we like it or not, right? It's the one constant that things are going to change. But I find that very often what makes us most uncomfortable with those changes or makes us uncomfortable with what's happening in our careers or our relationships is that we have limiting subconscious beliefs. We have programming that goes as deep as being genetic programming, but we also have emotional and psychological programming, which very often evolved from trauma that we experienced. But spending some time with my dear friend, Colby Kaur, over the weekend, who is a genetic researcher who some of you may remember did the show a little while back, I have an even deeper understanding of how deep those issues are. They actually are markers on our genes, and they might have been created by what happened to our great-grandparents and then been passed on to us genetically. So in my work, I help people discover what are those subconscious beliefs, because we can't really know them with our conscious mind. What are those subconscious beliefs that may be creating outcome that we don't really want? Let me give you an example. I had a woman in my office one day, and she was a new client, and she said to me, I said, so what can I help you with? What are the issues that are problematic in your life right now? And she said, I have radar for every self-centered, narcissistic guy out there. And I go, and how does that show up? What do you experience? Well, they don't care what I want. It's all about them. They don't want to do the things I want to do. And so I said to her, okay, why don't we, I have a feeling you're holding some subconscious beliefs like I don't deserve to be treated beautifully by a man, or I'm not worthy of wonderful treatment in a relationship. And she looked at me and she said, of course I don't believe that. I don't hold those beliefs. I think I'm very worthy of being treated beautifully. I think I'm totally deserving of a great relationship. And I said, yeah, but look what keeps showing up in your life. So something's not working with something else. And so I use something called neuromuscular feedback or muscle testing to find out what's going on in the subconscious mind. Some of you may have seen people do that where they'll put a little pressure on an extended arm to see if the muscle holds or if the arm goes weak. And that little tool is a godsend for finding out what exists in the subconscious, because the conscious mind is only 5% of our mind functioning. The subconscious is 95%. So if you are experiencing in your life that you keep having things happen that you don't want to happen, or you keep experiencing the same negative things over and over again, this could very well be a result of the fact that you have a limiting belief that, by the way, because everything is vibrations of energy, right? And the vibration of that limiting belief is being projected out into the world like the waves from the radio station. And in a universe that's all about like attracts like, you're going to attract a vibrational match to the beliefs that you hold. So if I believe I don't deserve to be treated well by a man, guess what kind of men I'm going to attract? But here's the good news. We can shift those beliefs. We can help you neutralize that negative belief and move into a positive belief that then, when projected out there, is going to attract the man or the woman or the job or the business or the career of your dreams. So that's the kind of work that I do, and that's the kind of work that we all really need to do to clear away the old residue, to clear away the limiting beliefs, to clear away the genetic signatures of somebody else's story that may have lived 3 generations ago. So this work, though, I work with mind-body tools, the tools of energy psychology, and excuse me, I can tell you, many lives have been changed through these tools. Those of you who may want to learn more can go to the website of the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. That is the association of which I am a member of the board and a founding member. So 20 years ago, this association began, and that's really when we began to use these tools in the world in a bigger way. Now, lots of people know about EFT, tapping, all of those sorts of things that help people to shift beliefs, their vibration, their feelings, their behaviors. They're absolutely incredible tools. So that's what I do to help women to trust their intuition more and to be able to step out in the world in a bigger way. It's also the kind of work I do with men who are experiencing huge stress and anxiety, oftentimes because of the limiting beliefs. But in studio today with me, I have somebody who, I don't know, doesn't seem to have any limiting beliefs. She's a woman who wasn't afraid to step out as long ago as 2002 and start doing radio and podcasting and letting the world know what she thought, what she felt, and what she believed. So joining me in just a moment is Mary Goulet, and I am excited for you all to meet Mary. She is not only all those things I just said, she's fun. She's a lot of fun. And she's doing several shows herself at this time, not this very moment in time, of course, but she's doing several shows that we'll have her tell you more about. And we'll talk a little bit about this crazy world of radio and podcasting, because it is such a big thing right now, and many people believe that we should all be doing some kind of a podcast to promote our businesses and to let the world know what we believe and what we stand for. So in just a moment, we will be back. We also want to let you know that we are being brought to you by Sherry Blair, who is all about empowering women to grow beautiful financial futures. She can be reached at 619-997-0416 or at sherryblairfinancialconsultant.com. We'll be right back with Mary Goulet. All right, Ms. Mary. Roll on in. Oh, can you hit the red button? Yeah. Oh, I think we used that before. We can just lean it against it. Let's see if that works. Thank you, Todd. Well, maybe. You know what? Oh, shoot, I don't have it.
What do you need?
I'm just, Sherry, is it her new thing, Sherry? You're not sure. Darn it. She is, I'm sure. I think that's it. Or is it financialservices.com? Mary, can you grab your phone? We'll be right back. But I've got her number on my phone. Do you have her number? Darn it. And Susie's not here.
And that's not her number?
That is her number.
Do you want to call her?
Yes. Okay, good idea. Let's see, what does it say? She just changed her website, so I want to. Sherry Blair, our sponsor, who's watching us.
Good.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you for helping me straighten that out. Okay, so I got to get my mic now so that I can look at you and be heard. All right, if you'll hit that green button again. Oh, wait, Mary. I got to get your bio. Okay. All right. Thanks, Eddie. Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw. As promised in our last segment. Oh, let's start that again. I'll start, Facebook people. All right, we're going to do that one more time. Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio. And we are being brought to you by Sherry Blair, my favorite financial consultant, whose goal is to help women especially create beautiful financial futures. And Sherry can be reached at 619-997-0416 or at Sherry Blair financialservices.com, and her name is spelled CherryBlair, financialservices.com. All right. So as promised in the last segment, I have here in studio with me now Mary Goulet, who is an award-winning author, radio, TV host, and a podcaster. One of the first podcasters.
Yes.
We'll be hearing more about that in a moment. Mary is quite the celebrity, folks. She has appeared on Dr. Phil 3 times, on Montel, the CBS Early Show, and over 50 morning shows. And this is one of the things I love about Mary. She is also a passionate Catholic and is creating a new podcast around that whole theme that's going to be called Catholicism is Cool. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you
want
for
to
having
hear
me. Yes.
more about that. So first of all, let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
So how did your career, I know you have many careers because you were also in real estate, right? But your career in radio goes all the way back to 2002.
Correct. So when my daughters were 2 and 6 months, I went to a workshop because I wanted to be a presenter.
Mm-hmm.
And a gal sitting next to me, I think you know her as well, Roberta Shaler.
Oh, yes.
She invited me onto her radio show. And the second I sat down and started speaking into the mic and put the headphones on, I was like, move over. I want my show. I want a show. And 6 months later, or 6 weeks later, I had my own show. And that was in the summer of 2002.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been just doing it ever since.
And now, aren't you doing like 3 different shows?
So I co-host for Reinvention Radio with Steve Olsher and Richard Ote over at wsradio.com. That's every Thursday for 2 hours. Prior to that is my show, The Mary Goulet Show, Cultivate a Rich Interior, which we could talk about that a little bit. And then Catholicism is Cool. I'm doing a lot of different platforms with that. But yeah, I'm doing definite interviews and segments on why it's cool.
I think we really should just jump right into that because I think a lot of people out there, I have no idea how many practicing Catholics there are in the world, but it's a huge amount of people.
Oh, yeah. It's millions and millions and millions of people,
Yeah.
60 million or plus,
Oh, my
in
goodness.
all different nations. You'd be surprised at how many nations have Catholicism as their core religion.
Yes. And, you know, I have to do a shout out for Sister Judy Valmont, who I met, oh my goodness, this has got to be 20 years ago. She was, I can't remember exactly what her job was, but she was in charge of continuing education at Loyola Marymount University.
Nice.
And so I met her because I was setting up grief training at the time, grief recovery groups. And we were doing training for, people who would be facilitators of those groups.
Sure.
And what I learned through Sister Judy was nuns were the first feminists. Nuns have been stepping out and doing, this thing in the world for years. Whether they were doing what Mother Teresa did, whether they were in jobs, like Sister Judy was. I mean, they were stepping out there. They're a segment of the population who didn't buy into the Cinderella story that you had to have a man, you had to get married, you had to have children to have a fulfilling life. Their life was about service to God. So really it was like they were the first career women, really, who stepped out in a bold way.
Yeah, and in the older days, they would be the teachers in the schools for the children.
That's right.
And there would be convents, and they would live on campus of the school and the church.
Yes.
That in America has been dwindling, sad to say, because I think we need the role models. They're called to the richness that I talk about when in Catholicism is cool. And what I allude to in Cultivate a Rich Interior, that's where they're coming from. They have a calling.
Yes.
And that is the root of their fulfillment in life.
I love the way you said that, because I think one of the things we're reading about so much now is that you have to do what you're passionate about. Or I can't say you have to, but to really feel excited about your life, you have to be doing something that fulfills you, not just something that's bringing home a paycheck. A lot of people have to do something that just brings home a paycheck, but the ones that get to engage in something that they're passionate about seem to be the most fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think innately we all, on some level, at some time, and to whatever degree, we have that question, is this all there is? Is there something more about who I am that I can be of service to others? And I really believe in it. I wrote it first in my book, Go With Your Gut. This is a second edition. We all have a mission. That mission has a purpose. It can be fueled by our passion. So the passion doesn't kick in until you acknowledge your mission and accept that it does have a purpose. Then it's fueled by passion and ultimately executed through service to others. Now, if we all take that on and say, we know we have something inside, and you're like, I just can't put my finger on it. It's a culmination of the different things I've done in my life, the different interests I've had. But I find that a lot of people, if you go back to from 0 to 18, 5 to 18, what you were interested in doing, even a peripheral interest, there are threads of your soul's knowledge trying to get your attention. And when you do finally open your eyes and go, well, maybe it has something to do with writing or music or podcasting or being a charitable person in some way, shape, or form. But once we get that little acorn identified, then we almost can settle back into our soul and go, okay, now I'm going to continue to pursue it. And then the wonderful, joyful stuff happens that other people notice it in you as well.
Oh, that's so true. And it all begins with going with your gut.
Yes.
But what do you say to people who say, but I just don't know what I want to do. I don't feel a passion about anything.
Well, okay, they may be looking at their life circumstances, because creativity is not a mental process. It's a soulful process. So if you are overly stressed financially or in a relationship or working too many hours a day in a job that just basically drains you, that has to be acknowledged, and find a way to isolate a little bit of time to connect to that spark within you. And sometimes people escape to their favorite music. And that is a state changer.
Yes, it
and
is.
we need to change our state.
Absolutely.
Going out and getting the endorphins going by exercising. Something that relaxes your soul. Because in my book, Go With Your Gut, people say, I don't know how to hear my gut knowingness. And I said, that's because you're listening so much to your ego. Your ego's fear-based, fundamentally fear-based. And that's our thought process. We're taught that way. Didn't you use your head? Why didn't you think this through?
Exactly. This is exactly what I was thinking when I was doing the first piece and talking about why it's so hard for people to trust their gut, because we're acculturated just the way you just described. If it's not coming from your intellect, then it's not reliable. You can't trust it.
Right. And we want to cover all of our bases. We want to do all the research. We want to be logical.
Yes.
Be sensible.
Yes.
Ask other people first.
Right. Oh, my God.
But I, even in a quote in this book, nobody can give you wiser advice than yourself. And that's Cicero saying this.
Oh, wow.
This is ancient.
Ago.
This is ancient. So we do know, we just like to make sure we don't make a mistake.
Yes.
And the other part, I say, don't believe everything you think, your ego. Don't follow your heart, because that's emotion-based. So I use the example of women who feel great, have their to-do list ready to go jump in the shower, come out, go to put their jeans on, and they're too tight. What's their mood like now? Now they feel badly about themselves. I shouldn't have eaten that. I should be working out. I got, So we can't make good, solid decisions when our moods can go up and down. You can feel good about yourself and bad about yourself or your circumstances multiple times a day.
That's right.
So if we trust our gut knowingness, and it's a simple process. It's just, will we do it?
Yeah.
Listen to the language of your ego. It's asking questions. It's trying to manipulate circumstances to get us where we think we want to be. The heart is anything emotional, and the gut is a statement of 5 words or less. To do something, don't do something, or delay.
Can you give me well, you know what? I think it would be really great if
Come
we
back.
do that after the break, because I want you to have plenty of time to explain that. I love that. 5 words or less.
Spoken as a statement.
Spoken as a statement. That's not necessarily emotional, or that could be.
Your gut is neutral.
Neutral. Okay. So it's not coming from the ego and the
No.
intellect, and it's not coming from the emotion and the heart.
Correct.
It's coming from this neutral place called the gut.
Yes. And then your heart can kick in and your ego can kick in.
Okay.
But they can't be the leader.
All right. I know you're all on the edge of your seats, as am I, and Mary Goulet will be telling us more about this when we come back from this break. All right. Cool. If you're ready to go, I'm ready to go. I want to hear this.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw, being brought to you by Sherry Blair, the financial consultant who is all about helping to empower women to grow beautiful financial futures. And she does that through educating them about how to use their money wisely and how to make it last. She can be reached at 619-997-0416 or at her website, SherryBlairFinancialServices.com. Her name spelled CherryBlair, financialservices.com. All right, those of you who were here in the last segment know we're on the edge of our seats because Mary Goulet is in studio, and she is an author and a radio host and so many other things. And today, she's honoring me with her presence here in the studio. And she wrote this book called Go With Your Gut. And she's about to tell us what exactly that means, going with your gut. Because if you heard in the last segment, it doesn't mean getting caught up in egoic thoughts and intellect. And it doesn't mean running with whatever your emotions tell you to do. It's coming from this neutral place. So, Mary, give us an example of what would be like a neutral gut statement.
Okay. So, first of all, the book is so thin is because this is a very simple process to keep in mind, but not necessarily easy to do because our ego and our emotions are going to be louder than our gut.
Yes.
Our gut is a whisper, okay? It's a whisper of do this, don't do that, or wait. I call it do, don't, and delay.
I love that.
And when I used to coach people, and that's how I realized this really cool principle. People would always come in to see me and say, I'm confused, I don't know what to do. But then they would proceed to tell me all the different things about that circumstance. And I finally realized, I said, you're not confused. You know what to do. You're just arguing with yourself. So your ego and your heart will argue. So let's say you're in a relationship. You know it's not going to last. Right? Because we do know. We have a knowingness when we meet someone, but we might be comfortable. We don't like to be alone. A Other people love this guy. Why don't you? You know, there's all different reasons why we go through many relationships in our life. But we know when it's not working.
Right.
So the ego will kick in and start saying, oh, gosh, well, I don't want to be alone. And what if I never find someone else again? He's pretty cool, but just because he cheated, you know, I can still probably. So they start justifying.
Or I can change him.
I could change him. So your ego will.
Done that one, huh?
Right? The ego will kick in with all these problem-solving things based on fear. Your heart will go, yeah, what if I feel really bad afterward and think I made a mistake? Or what if I hurt his feelings? So the emotions get triggered. The gut says it's not going to last. 5 words or less. But the beautiful part about it, clear up the confusion and say, okay, I know it's not going to last. I know my ego's freaking out. I know my heart's freaking out. But there's no time frame. Like I had a friend, I did a presentation, and he walked up to me afterward. He said, oh my gosh, my 18-year marriage is over. And I'm like, whoa, dude. Whoa.
I didn't say it. I didn't do
right?
it.
Well, this was in August. He called me in February, and we had coffee. He goes, took me that much time to work through it, and it ultimately did end. So if people are afraid to admit a truth from their gut because they think, oh, once it's out on the table, then I have to act on it immediately. Nope, you don't. So
that's comforting.
Yes.
I think that is actually good to know that you can see a truth, and it doesn't mean you have to go right into action. Sometimes that's probably wise, but you don't have to.
Because we have to let it percolate a little bit. And then over time, you trust your gut because it's amazing. How many of you made decisions where you're like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that?
Oh, yeah.
It's a financial mistake. Been there. It's a relationship mistake.
Been there.
Been there. Any other purchases you might do. I should stay. Somebody invites you to dinner. You're like, I think I should stay home. But you go anyway.
Yeah.
Why'd I do that?
Yeah.
All right. So if we can learn to just trust that statement that's being made, it's not going to give us a reason why. But after a while, you become comfortable with that. It's louder than your emotions and louder than your ego. And when you start to get comfortable, you're making those decisions unconsciously instead of working to trust consciously, which is just a reversal of what we've been taught. So this is what I would suggest everyone do. Live in the land of something tells me.
Okay, say more about that.
So let's say our friends, colleagues, just life in general can try to sway us to do what they want us to do.
Right.
Okay. So like I said, something tells you when somebody asks you to go to dinner and you say, something tells me I should stay home.
Right.
Practice this. No one will argue with you. No one can argue with something tells me. Because that's your wisdom you're acknowledging.
Oh, so you're saying actually verbalize.
Absolutely.
Something tells me I should stay home.
And nobody will argue with you.
Oh,
they
that's
never
cool.
say, what do you mean something tells you? Because they say it to themselves.
Right.
But what we do is we silently say it, and then we try to come up with excuses for not going to dinner.
Yes.
Something
and they
tells
see
me
through that, or they feel offended by that.
Exactly. So just live in the land of something tells me.
Oh, I love that.
Something tells me when I'm running errands, instead of making a bunch of right turns, that's logical, that, wait, don't go to the grocery store first. Go way over here to the post office and then come back. And you're like, really? That doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that? Why would I drive all the way around? Now I just go, I'm going to the post office first because something tells me.
So you're putting this in practice in your own life, obviously.
Yes.
What opened you up to the whole concept of this?
Well, when I was coaching people, they didn't we all have the answers within us.
Oh, so you knew they had the answers within them, but you came up with this method to help them access them.
They taught me, basically, each individual that came to see me.
Yeah.
So I started recording way back in the day. This was in 1997.
You were doing
the coaching.
Coaching, okay.
And back then we had cassette tapes.
Oh, yeah.
So I had 2 cassette tapes, one for them to take home and one for me. And it took 1 year of realizing this process was laid out for me. Because what they were saying to me, they all walked in, could be I'm so confused, I don't know if I should quit my job. And I'm like, well, the answer is in the question, yes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking. Oh. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I should leave my spouse. Well, possibly the answer is yes, because it's the answer's in the question. So let's work through the confusion around it.
Interesting.
Then I would draw a piece of paper for them with a little stick figure. That's why that's so popular. Little stick figure. And I would say, okay, what you just said is coming from your ego. What you just said is coming from your emotions. What is a statement? And they would make the statement, the 5 words or less statement.
Wow.
They would admit it.
That is so cool. So just to review this for our listeners, not a great idea to just go with what your head is saying, because the thoughts come from ego usually, and fear.
Yes.
That was a really important point you made.
Yeah.
And then even the emotional thoughts are often coming from fear.
Yeah, fear with sympathy, empathy, loss. Yes. So there's a parallel there. There's a thread of fear. Your gut is your GPS. So I use this red convertible analogy. So your gut wants to take you where you know in your soul to satisfy your mission, purpose, passion, execute your service. Your soul is the part of you, your essence, your inspiration, that is going to take you along the path to be in the right place at the right time, etc. So to satisfy the ego and your heart, we have to give them a role. So, okay, the gut goes up to the convertible and says, I'm going to take you where I know and you know you want to go. And the ego says, but I'm driving, because it needs to control.
Right.
And the heart's like, I don't care. I'm jumping in the back seat. I just want country music on so I feel good. I have the wind blowing in my hair, great country songs, and I don't have to worry about making any decisions, because your heart's whole job is to feel. Okay? So then the gut says, okay, you're going to turn when I say turn, stop when I say stop, and then I'll have you where you really want to be. Well, the ego's like, don't you think we should turn here? The gut says, no, trust me. Let's keep going.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Don't you think we should turn here? Because it starts to panic because it doesn't have the control and it's trusting the gut. And so eventually, if we can look at our lives from that perspective, that we need to learn to trust the voice of the 5 words or less spoken in a statement. And if the 6th word is because, your ego just took over.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
all like a big full circle of simplicity. Seriously.
So I have a few more questions to ask you about this wonderful process when we come back. We'll be right back. All right. We went over a teeny bit there, but that's okay. All right, guys, this is great, isn't it? I love this, Mary. So when we come back, I'm gonna start with a question about, like, how to go into this process. Do they have to actually feel their stomach?
Okay.
I mean, go into that place. Okay, you ready? And then we'll also come back to your the podcast and how to reach you. We haven't told them that at all, so let's tell them right up front, I think. Okay. Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio, being brought to you by Sherry Blair, the financial consultant, who is all about empowering women to grow beautiful financial futures. Sherry can be reached at 619-997-0416 or at her website, sherryblairfinancialservices.com. And if you go to that website, she has a really cool book that's a free giveaway to help women know about how to deal wisely with their money, especially in retirement. That's at sherryblairfinancialservices.com, spelled CHERIBLAIR, financialservices.com. All right, so those of you who may have just joined us, I have Mary Goulet with me, an award-winning author, a radio and TV host, and a podcaster, and the author of this amazing book called Go With Your Gut. So Mary's been explaining to us why it's not a great idea to just go with your head or go with your heart, but to go with your gut, because your gut is going to come from a more neutral place of wisdom, maybe the inner wisdom, right?
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. And okay, so now when I'm thinking, I'm a listener, and I just heard you say that, and I go, but how do I do it? What do I do? So do you like close your eyes and picture your gut, or how do you take your consciousness to listening there?
Okay, so what I found over time is if you understand the language of your ego, your emotions, and your gut, and you're still confused, which means you know what to do, you just don't like your options. Okay?
Too true.
So what you could do is write it down what your thoughts are. I don't like my job, but I don't know if I can change it because I'm afraid I won't get another job, or blah, blah, blah. So
right.
you just
How will I pay my bills?
How will I pay my
feed
bills?
my family?
Everything.
Very real concerns.
So really, we're just starting to listen to ourselves. And when people go in my workshops or talk to me, they'll work with one another with it. Oh, that's your ego right there. Oh, that's your gut. And so if it has no emotional trigger, it's what your gut is saying. But we have to get used to, and in the book I share what you might hear your head saying.
Yeah.
Asking questions. Have you ever sat down? Yes, you have, because you're a therapist. Have you ever sat down with a friend and listened to them go on and on and on about, well, we have a really good relationship, except that one time he cheated. But then he's really nice to me, and he buys me a lot of flowers. But, I get so darn mad at him because he won't talk to me about anything. And they just go on and on and on and on.
Right.
You're like, stop. What does your gut say? This is not the one.
Or, I'm not really happy. Would that be a gut statement? Or, is that going to the heart?
It is. It's more of a declaration, a directive. The statement will be
okay,
more
directive.
Definitive.
Give us another example of a gut statement.
They're constant throughout the day.
I like the first one you said was, it's not going to last.
Yeah,
that was exactly
that's a relationship
5 words.
one.
Okay, that was about relationship. So what would be like, that example you used, somebody doesn't really like their job, but they're terrified to not have a job.
Right, and that one could be dual fold as well as in a relationship. They recognize, I don't like my job.
Right.
Once they say that,
yeah, that's
the gut is saying, okay.
Right.
You're going to start preparing to leave this position, but then there's a sort of a mourning of it, a grieving process of accepting, okay, I'm leaving my friends, my colleagues, maybe I feel like a failure. So we have to just know what the answer is, and then process like you do at the end of a relationship of any sort, work relationship, friend, lover, whatever. If it's not good for you, your gut is just going to say, it's done.
Right.
And you know enough. But if you looked back a year or even longer, when the dust settles, hindsight goes, that's when my gut told me. And it told me again over here.
Yep.
But I was going to fight through it.
Right.
I was going to steel myself and make sure I got through this because of the money.
Worked so hard
Yes.
for so long to get there. Would you say, Mary, something just came to my thought process. Is the gut operating in the present moment? Because so often our thoughts are either in the past or the future. Our emotion usually is being based on something in the past or the future.
Sure.
But it sort of feels like this gut thing you're talking about is right here, right now, present moment.
Okay. It's so present moment. When somebody puts the donuts on the table, it says, don't eat that.
Yes.
And your ego's like, oh, man, that looks good. And your heart's saying, yummy, yummy. Mm-hmm. And then when you finish that donut, oh, I wish I didn't eat that. Mm-hmm. It's that subtle and insignificant to, if you keep doing that every single day, it becomes significant that you ignore your gut. Mm-hmm. The gut is in the moment and will repeat the moment until you give in, which is great.
Right? Yeah.
Because it's all for our greater good. It's all for our soul wanting to express. And people fundamentally want to feel purposeful and want to be able to express uniquely. Even if they're a teller at a bank, they want to touch people's lives in a significant way.
Yes.
So we all have our soul shining through us. And the more we are aware of it by not listening to our ego, because it'll just keep taking us on tangents and will take so much longer to get where we know we should be, which will feel like home.
Yeah, so there's a comfort, a peace.
Inner peace.
Inner peace
is
that right
highly underrated, and it all comes from our soul. And the soul is our gut.
Wow. That is so huge, and it's so right on, because in last week's show I was talking about some of the reasons for suicide.
Oh, boy.
And one of them is that people live this life where they aren't having meaningful experiences with people because they're so busy chasing the dollar or the job or the whatever. And then they get it, and then they realize there is no peace, there is no fulfillment, there is no joy.
Because it's all ego and emotion centered.
Yeah.
And then people who, I've done a lot of studies on people who die by suicide, they're so caught up in their ego and disconnect emotionally that they don't know how to hear that statement.
Right. They don't know. Yeah, you can't hear the gut.
They're too far down and overwhelmed.
Yep. And that overwhelming pain just twists the brain so it's not thinking logically. And then you really can't go to a good idea like listening to your gut.
Right.
You know?
And that's why Catholicism is cool. I've spent many years teaching people how to pray the rosary. And they would come back to me and tell them how much it's changed their life. And what it's done is it helps you settle into yourself so you hear your gut all the time, because your gut is the visceral voice of your soul.
Right. Right.
Because we can all have that feeling inside. So it's a worthy pursuit because it just makes you a fuller person in life.
And a more peaceful one, it sounds like. You know, it sounds like when you just, what you've explained feels to me like it's kind of like going, you know, and just grounding yourself in a moment of peace, serenity, contentment, acceptance. It all ties in with this gut statement that you're talking about.
And that's what I espouse. I don't want us to run out of time for you. The more you can find your jam. My jam's praying the rosary, Hail Marys. That's my go-to when something scares me, upsets me. Some people go to yoga. Some people meditate on something that is meaningful for them. Whatever it is, we all need to have something that is our go-to, because every single one, 9 out of 10 people in one room, 9 of them are going through some type of distress in the moment or chronic, acute or chronic at any given time. And we need to know how to self-soothe, soul-soothe, so we can cope and be okay. It doesn't take the hurt, the grief, the scare too much away, but it helps you manage it better.
I love that, Mary. Soul soothe.
Yes, we need
I'm going to
soul
remember
soothe.
that. I do that a lot through meditation, and I love that you're doing it with the rosary.
Yep.
Some people pray. Some people walk in a garden. You
Yes.
know? Thank you, Mary, for all you've taught us today. This was so wonderful.
Thank you for
And
having
I
me.
am going to be definitely practicing going with my gut. So thank you to all our listeners who joined us today and viewers on Facebook Live. You can catch us here on Saturday and Sunday evenings on KCBQ, AM 1170, The Answer in San Diego, or on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Libsyn, Omni, SoundCloud, and we're also on 15 terrestrial radio stations across the country and iHeartRadio. And if you can't remember all of that, just ask Alexa. Also, please remember, for more information about me or my work, you can go to paulashaw.com. And for more information or to listen to past episodes of Change It Up with Paula Shaw, you can find those and information about our show, information about being a guest on the show or a sponsor of the show, advertising through the show. All of that is on changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. And please remember to check out our Change It Up Radio Facebook page and our group, because we want to hear from you. We want to know what kind of topics you're interested in, and we want to answer any questions you may have. And also, don't forget to check out our Change It Up Radio Instagram page. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. All right, Miss Mary. Woohoo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That was an unexpected treat. Wasn't that amazing? And by the way, Facebook people, that's her book. Is it available on Amazon?
Yes, it is.
I want that book. That's it.